All right. So in the last session, we covered the reducer pattern, and we also covered global state. How will we manage global state in React using the context API? There is another way of managing state. It's called using Redux global state, but we won't be going into that right now. So that will be a part of a separate module itself, right? So today we'll be talking about React Query. And so basically React Query helps us manage any API transactions. So API transactions, it means very simple. Whenever we make a fetch call, or whenever we make a post call, or whenever we make a patch call, it helps us manage the entire flow of data. Okay, let's understand what exactly this means. So the agenda for today is understanding the use of React Query and understanding two hooks that they provide: useQuery and useMutation. Okay. So can you explain what is the typical flow of API data in an application?
Typical flow, like what?
Meaning, what will happen if I suppose I have to make a fetch call, okay, for something. So what are the steps that we take, and what all do we need to manage on the UI?
On the UI,
think about the loading state of the component, everything.
we use the use effect.
Correct.
To fetch the API call.
Correct.
So after that, we have to give the API URL to that use to fetch the API.
Correct. So when the component mounts, we fetch the data. Perfect.
Yep.
Right. Then
after that, our request go to the server, and server will send the response for that API.
Correct. So before that, we would need to set some kind of loading state.
Yes.
Right. So even before we call the fetch function, we would probably set the loading state to true, and then we will wait for the response.
Right.
Right. And then when we get the data, what do we do with that?
We set the data to the use state.
Perfect. So we set
in the
state variable. Perfect. Then anything else that needs to be done?
We just set that loader state to the false.
Correct. We'll set the loading state to false. And what else? Anything else?
No. Nothing.
What if there is an error? What do we need to handle that?
Exception handling.
Yeah. So let's say there is some failure at the API, right? On the UI, what would we we will need to show some kind of message to the user, right?
Yeah.
It will be a toast message, or it will be a banner that says, okay, we could not fetch this data. Whatever.
Yes.
Right? So handle any API errors, and also if there is some success action. So for example, if once the transaction is successful, for example, let's say we have done a post, we have submitted a form, and we've set the loading state, and if we get a success, we want to show the user some feedback, right?
Right.
So that is also something we will have to handle on the UI, right? So every API has these elements, you know. Some places we don't need this success action. Some places we won't need the API error. Some places we might not need the loader. It'll be a rare case, but sometimes it'll be a background fetch, whatever it is, right? But mostly every API uses these in some way or the other. Format remains the same. Okay. So so let's actually do this. Okay. For now, we're going to sync all of our project data with the APIs. So there is this branch that we have created. Actually, wait, let me see if I can do this. Perfect. Okay. So I've created this session 5 starter branch. All right. And basically it has a setup for a server. I'll just show you what it is. So this db.json, it basically has a JSON, a huge JSON of many entries. One is of to-dos, which we were using so far, and one is of users. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now what we are going to do is we are going to sync the entire app with API data. So for example, let's start the app. Yeah, take this into a new window. Yeah. So now in this app, one is we are fetching the data from the API, but when we search, we are searching it locally. You know,
Oh,
this is not happening on the API. When
it
we
is
sort also, we are sorting it locally.
locally.
And when we add something also, it is happening locally. We are just maintaining the state. If we refresh, it will all be gone.
Yes.
Now, there is one thing, right? If we cannot implement a search on a local data set, you know, because there might be so many things that are not in this page, but they will be there in other pages, right? In API data. Normally we have pagination, correct?
Correct.
So the search also needs to be triggered from the API. The sort also, there might be many items missing. So if we just sort this and then we go to the next page, we might see that it is now unsorted.
Sorted.
Yeah.
Correct.
So we need to maintain the sorting also at the API state only. Okay. So what we've done is we've created a basic JSON server that will serve these things. All right. It will basically create a /to-dos route that will let us, add to-dos, edit to-dos using patch request, and it can also let us, it will let us filter it out, sort it out, all of those things. Okay. And we have a users API also, which we have not used so far. We have not used our users in the app yet, but I've just kept it right now for future usage. Okay.
Okay.
So now I've created an API. So the first thing that we do, all right, whenever we have some kind of, we have to integrate the APIs, is probably, yeah. So of course, if you are doing this, what we need to do is we need to run yarn install, and then we need to run this command yarn serve JSON. This will basically make our project live. So let's come here and let's say yarn serve JSON. This script is there in the package log JSON. Sorry, package.json. So in package.json, you're seeing this. It is calling using this JSON server library. Okay? And on port 8080, it is serving this db.json. So let's just see what this gives us. If I go to localhost 8080. Okay, right now it's blank. If I go to /to-dos, it gives me all these to-dos. If I go to /users, it gives me all these users. Let's say I go to users /1, it'll give me only the user with the ID. Okay. So all of these things are there. So what we created is, now we've got a local server running, and once I edit things and everything, it will stay updated. Okay. Now we've got an API document right here. Okay. So first thing we do whenever we have to integrate some API is we get the documentation from the backend. That, what is the URL we have to hit, what method do we need, right? What are the parameters I can send, which ones are compulsory, which ones are optional, right? And then what is the response? In response, what will I get? Correct. So this is a basic API documentation that I've created. Let me see if I can open this in this. Oh, great. Fantastic. So to get all to-dos, we have this URL. and we have the method get, and these are the params we can so we can say which page number we want, how many entries we want from that page number, whether we want to sort it by either ID or user ID or title or complete, which one we want to sort it by. Normally we'll be using the title, right? And then do we want which order do we want it in, ascending or descending? Sorry, these are not separated by a comma, so it's not as easy to read, but yeah, right now I'll just go through it and I'll update this later. Right, and then we have whether completed is true or false. So we have the show completed, right? So if we click show completed, then we should pass that API. And title like, so it will use it for searching the string. Okay.
Okay.
So now we have this API shape, basically a basic shape, right? In place. So whenever we start implementing APIs, okay, the first thing we will do is we will make a types file for it. And this one we already have it. It's called todo.ts, right? So here, let's just the doc and update it. So we have the response, which is ID, user ID, title, and completed. So I think user ID is missing from there. For now, I'll just copy this. Perfect. So this is one to-do item. Now we have the to-do items response. No, okay, actually, let's go for this. This is the get all to-dos. The API is doing get all to-dos. So what I will call it is get to-dos. Okay, response. This is what I will name my interface. Okay, and in this case, it will be just the same thing actually, to-do item, and it will be an array of it. Correct?
Yes.
Is this making sense? Achha, okay, we can't declare something like this. So we have to make it a type. So whenever we are defining an interface, it has to be of this object type. And if we want to make it an array, we need to make it a type and not an interface. This is just something about TypeScript. So now we can put an array, and this is fine. Okay. So instead of using this, now I can actually use to-do item.
Okay.
Now we also create what we are going to send. Get to-dos params. And this should be an interface. So these are the different params that I'm allowed. I'll just copy them over. Backslash and go. Okay. So basically, this is the list of params that I can send. This is the type of response I will get. This much I understand. Okay.
Yes.
This is the first step. Second step is we create a services folder. Okay. Services means where we actually make that particular API call. Okay.
Okay.
So let's call this to-dos.services.ts, and I'll actually change this file name. I'll call this also to-dos.types.ts. Okay. Now I'll come back here. Where's the API? So I need to use this URL and I need to use the get method. Now, I'll create a function that does this for me. Export const. Now, the naming convention we follow is look at the types also, right? We've done get to-dos response, get to-dos params. So the function name should be get to-dos. Okay. This is just a convention that makes it very easy to navigate through the app. Okay. Now this function, what should it do? It needs to fetch the data. So how will we do that?
Like we are using use effect previously.
But right now this is just a function. Okay, so maybe I am confusing you a little bit. Okay. Right now we are just going to create a function. So we are going to focus on just one part of the functionality. Okay. This function, this service, all it is responsible for is making the API call and getting the data. Okay. We can use this get to do's functions inside a use effect. We can use it inside some other framework, wherever we want. But its job is only this much. It has to fetch the data and then bring it back. Okay.
Okay.
So how will we fetch the data inside this? We know that the URL is /todos and the method is get. So what do we generally use to fetch something from the API? JavaScript. Any idea?
Fetch.
Yeah. So one is we can use fetch, right? And we can say, so our base root URL is HTTP.
Localhost.
This is correct, right? :8080/todos in this case. And we can pass it some params. Right now, let's just call it without any params. So if we see, all of these are actually optional. है ना? तो कुछ नहीं भेजा तो भी चलेगा. Right. So let's do this and let's just test this out for now. Right. So we'll go to this app and we'll just, instead of this, so we have this fetch already here. We'll just do get to do's. And let's just see if this is getting called or not on page load. So I'll refresh, go to network tab. And so I'm seeing two calls, right? Yep. One is going to this JSON placeholder, which is what we expect. And one is going to our local host. So now if I actually replace this with get to do's, it should work. Right. And I not. Perfect. Right. Now the data is actually coming from our local host and not from JSON placeholder. Making sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now this part, dot then res arrow res.json, this will be common, right? Whenever we do a request, we will have to convert the response to JSON. Hai na? So we should probably write some helper function, and not just this, actually. Yeah. So if we go to the services, so we will have to write then res arrow res.json. Also, this initial part of the URL will be common for all. You know, it will not keep changing. For users also, it will be same. For to-dos also same. For post, everything. So it's better for us to make a helper function. So yes, so that we can configure all of these once, and then whenever we use the helper function, it will automatically say take the base URL as this. It will automatically do the handling of the data. Okay, so let's do that. And this is typically done using Axios. Okay, so I'll call this API.ps and I will make a get function. Export const get equal to a function. So have you used Axios before?
No.
Okay. So Axios is basically a library that just allows us to make all these changes. So I'll just give you an example. Okay. So I'll write import Axios from Axios. It is a helper library for all HTTP requests. Now I will say, let's see, create instance. Cool. So here you see, in this, we have the base URL, right? We have some timeout options, some headers that, these headers have to be sent with all of the requests. So right now we don't need any of this, but we do need the base URL. The base URL is going to be same. So it just allows us to create this basic instance. Now this instance itself will already have a method. So instance.get. And then we can pass in whatever we need. So whenever we are getting, we will pass the URL and we will pass a params, correct? So URL is of type. What will be the type of the URL?
String.
Correct. And params will be of type?
Any or object.
Correct. In this case, it will be any. Because we don't know na ki kya aayega. And then I think let's just see Axios API. Let's go to Axios get. Axios get. Just search for it somewhere. Sorry. Axios.
Second one, get request.
Correct. Method is get. URL is this response type. But we want something more. There's no link to this. Okay. Axios.get. Okay, fine. We have axios.get. Okay. If we have some params, what do we do? URL and config. Config takes an okay. So inside the config, there are many options. There are base URL, the headers, and params. Params is basically what we want to send right now. Perfect. So we'll create an object, params, and inside that we'll just pass the params that we have here. Great. So inside to-do.services, we'll make a get request. We can now exclude this AT part and just keep the route as /todos. And then we'll remove now. So sometimes the params will not be there, right? So it's giving us an error because we made this compulsory. Okay, perfect. Now let's come to the to-do app. So now we won't mostly need this dot then res arrow res.json. But I think the response format might be slightly different. So right now, I'm just going to comment this out. I'm just going to console log the response to see what Axios is sending us. So Axios sends us some other helpful data also, which helps us. Okay, so here we see, we get inside the response, we get a data key, which gives us the actual data. There is status, there's status text, all of that. But we want the data key. Now this data, always I will want the data, है ना? हमेशा मुझे data चाहिए रहेगा यहाँ पे. What I will do is, again, I'll put it in my helper method. So इधर ही dot then कर दूंगा, right? Res arrow res dot data. So now this will pass on the actual data only to the API. And now I think we can uncomment this part, and it should work. Perfect. So we don't get any errors, and we're getting the actual data inside the app. Is this making sense so far?
Yes.
There's anything that's not clear?
No.
Okay, cool. Similarly, so now let's, so we've created the types and services for get all function, right? Now let's go to the next one. So get to do by ID. In this, we will get the to do slash ID will be the URL. And then we will just get the response. There will be no params in this case, right? So let's first define the types. So actually type is already defined. We're going to get one to do item only. So I'll just mark this section as get to do's. Then I'll say get to do by ID. So export type get to do equal to do item. And nothing else. I think that's the only type that we need. Nothing else. So let's make the function export const get to do equal to a function. And we need to return get slash to do's. And we need the ID. So where will the ID come from?
Params.
We'll have to pass it as an argument.
Yep.
Right? So note, this is not a part of the params actually. The ID is part of the output. So we'll accept it using the argument. In this case, it's normally a number. And we'll use template details, template strings to inject it. Okay, great. Next one. Now, can you try to help me with this? So let's do to do, create a to do. So for creating a to do, we have to hit a post request to this URL with this in the body. Okay. And finally, we'll get that same one with the ID as a response. Okay. So in the API doc, we have this URL method post. We'll have to pass all of these three items, and then only we'll get a response. Okay. So can you help me make this?
Yes.
So actually, before we make this, we need to make the post helper, right? What we'll do is we'll say export const post equal to post of URL. So this will be mostly same. So instance has these methods already. And in this case, we won't have params. It will be body or date. Data. What is it? Let's check. Axios.post. Axios.post, and the body is the second argument altogether. Okay. So we don't need to pass anything. We'll just pass the second argument. We'll call it payload. Cool. So ये post हो गया अपना. And in this case, actually, payload will be, most of the times it will be required. So I'll just uncomment it right now. So now export const post to do equal to a function of now we return a post. What will be the first argument here?
URL.
So slash to do is the URL, and then second argument, where will we get it from?
Body.
Correct. So it has to be passed in through the arguments, है ना? Payload. अब इसका type define करना पड़ेगा. I forgot that. Okay. So I'll copy this over. Thanks. And then we'll say post to do interface, post to do payload. Okay. And export type, post to do response. What will this response be equal to?
That to do item array.
Great. Post to do's. Now we have post to do payload, and we pass this payload in. Great. So now let's actually try this out. Okay. Let's integrate this post to do's inside our app. So now, when we do add to do, instead of directly dispatching this, actually we'll let it dispatch also, but we'll say post to do, and we have to pass three things. So title, which will be the title, user ID. Right now I'll just pass it randomly 4, and completed, which I will say is by default false. Okay. So yeah, post to do abhi request jana chahiye, and let's check it out. So if I go to the network, and let's do one thing. Let's just console log this response also. Title and to do. Yep. So we saw it went with the correct payload, and in the response we got the entire the single item with this ID. Oh, fantastic. We're sorted. You know. Cool. Last thing is we have the functionality to change the completed status. Correct. So let's implement that also in API. So produce dot. So go to the API doc, update a to do. Now, right now we won't be updating this title or the user ID. We'll just be updating the completed one, right? So right now let's make the types first. Match to do. Export interface. Can you just guide me through this now? What will be
patch to do payload?
Perfect.
And we just want to pass that completed one.
Correct. So let's do one thing. Let's just define it and keep later on if you want to change. So we'll make all of them optional. Yeah. So the user can change whatever he wants whenever. Okay.
And we have to one more that response.
Perfect. Export interface.
Type, no? Export type.
Correct. Absolutely right. Great. I'm glad that you caught that. We get the item. Great. So now we get the function also.
Yeah. Patch to do payload and
we need to make the patch API function first. So let's do this. Patch URL again will be string. Payload right now we'll keep it as any. And
post patch.
Patch. Yeah. So this is very similar to the post API. So patch. And now let's check. Okay, so we need an ID. Okay. So slash to-dos. And the ID and payload will obviously have to come from arguments. Okay. Now, what we will also say is what this returns. So get to do. So get to do's will return the get to do response. We've not used it yet only. So we'll say this function actually it returns a promise. Get request is a promise itself, correct? It returns a promise which will resolve with get to do's response. Perfect. And similarly for the rest also. So get to do response. Where is it?
Get to do only, I think.
Get to do only I did, I think. Response. ठीक है. So we post to do response. Okay. Perfect. So now we've got all of this in place. Now let's replace our patch API with the mark completed with a patch API. So we'll go to do app. You say right now, remove this. Yeah. And we'll say mark to do completed. Yes. So patch to do. First is ID, and next is completed. That's pretty much it. Yep. We've got the type and then we so let's just clear it. And let's say the first one, I've patched it. It's number 108. So in the headers, we sent it to request 108, completed false. And in the response, we again got completed false. Now, if I refresh the page, I should see it as false only. Fantastic. So let's change all of these and just test it out. I'll refresh. So it's getting maintained. So we've successfully attached our state to the app. At least we've got the API calls ready. Now, right now, all of it is happening very, very fast. Barabar? So we're able to see the actions very, very quickly. But typically, there will be some kind of delay. So let's add that delay. Artificially, we'll add that delay. Okay. So in these APIs only, I'll do a set timeout. Okay, actually here. कैसे करेंगे? So I'll just make a mock function. Can't promise it. Promise set timeout. I only forgot. Okay, there we go. So I think I won't explain this right now. Basically, all we are doing is we are resolving all the data after a delay of 1000 seconds. Promise and data which can be. So right now the API call will go immediately, but I think we should see some delay in the console log. I'll just clear this. If it's working right, yeah, we're seeing this with quite a bit of a delay, which is great, which is exactly what we want. I'll reduce it 800. Okay. And delay that's for data. What is not working on? Acha, everywhere this issue has come up. Okay. Yeah, okay. Right now we just fix it like this. All right. So we've got our services. Now we need to, we've also connected it to our state. But if you notice, we're not doing the whole thing. You know? So right now, we are still updating everything inside our reducer. Correct? So whenever we assign something also, we are, actually just give me a moment. Okay. My screen is shared, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So right now we're getting the to-dos and then we're setting it to our reducer that we used last time. Correct? Now, when we are adding a new to-do, we are posting this to-do and this dispatch is actually at a local level. I know this is actually inconsistent, meaning the ID that we get that we are using here is right now just the length plus 1. Correct?
Correct.
But that's not, the API might give us some different ID altogether.
Right.
So we need to change this so that whatever response we are getting, we should set the, we should add that particular to-do to our list. You know? Is making sense?
Yes.
Oh, wait, it's not.
But हम लोग हाँ.
Okay, so right now we have 200 to-dos. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to paginate this response that we're getting. Correct? This is a pretty standard practice. So let's do it. Let's let's look at our API docs. Okay. We have these params. We can pass the page, the limit. So page means which page number, and limit means how many items per page. So if I say page 1 and limit 10,
20.
then I will get the first 10 entries. Right? If I do page 1 and limit 20, then first 20. If I get page 2 and limit 20, then 20 to 40, 21 to 40, like that.
Yes.
Right? So let's implement that here. Okay. So if I want to change the page number, I will need to show some buttons. So let's start with that. I'll just create the pagination component. Okay. We'll make a basic component that says button, and I'll just have 2 buttons. Previous page and next page. So when we click on previous page, we should go to the previous page. When we click on next page, we should go to the next page. Right now, we'll keep the size constant. You know, so I'll just name a variable here, const page size equal to 10. Okay. Now, and now we'll create a state variable. So page number will keep changing, correct?
Yes.
So that will be a state variable. Use state of starting with 1. Great. Now, when we are getting the to-dos, fetching the to-dos, we need to pass these two params, right? One is the limit, which is the page size in our case, and the other is the page, which is page
number.
Now this is showing us an error because we have not accepted any argument here right now. So let's say params, and this is get to do params. And we will also pass it as the second argument here. Fantastic. So now let's go to this page, and great. So actually we already got just the
10.
first 10. That's it. 10 items, limit 10, page 1. Fantastic. Now, when we click on previous page, what should happen? What should we change?
Page number.
Perfect.
But
so how will we do that?
It's already on start page.
Correct. So if it's not already on start page, then what will we do? So let's actually create a helper function. Handle previous click equal to a function. Yeah. What will we do inside this? We will have to change the page number. Right? And what will we change it to?
For the previous, it's page number -1.
Perfect. Page number -1. Now
for that we have to check that page numbers is.
So actually, even better way of doing it is let's just disable the button. If the page number is 1, we just disable this button.
Yeah.
So let's handle previous click here, and disable should be true when page number equal to
1.
Great. And let's do the same thing with next page. So handle previous click page number +1. Next click. And here also we will need to disable it, right? When the page number is the last page number.
Yes.
So we need to do something before that to calculate the last page number. So how will we do that? Do this calculation?
We can calculate over that data.
But first we need to know what the data size is, which we're not getting inside. My response right now it's not coming. Okay, fine. We will skip this part for now. Okay, because our API does not right now give us the total data. We'll just do handle next click, and if we handle next click beyond a level, it will break, which is okay. And we'll just print out the page number here.
Actually, we have many data, 200.
Yeah, so we won't go above 20. I'll just add some classes to make this neat. Fantastic. So now previous page is disabled because this is the first page, and the next page. Okay, are we fetching or not? Limit equal to 10. It's not getting fetched. Let's refresh. Page number 1. Next page is not getting fetched.
Yes.
Can you tell me
page
why?
number is changed.
Correct. Page number has changed. So this is where we're doing the fetching. So what do we need to change here?
that array, dependent array.
Correct. Perfect. So whenever the page number changes, we have to trigger the API again.
Mm.
Now it all works. Perfect. But in this case also, again, we will need to show a loading state. You know? Correct? When we click on previous page, it is loading, but the user cannot understand. So he's wondering.
It's loading your node.
Correct? Now, when we already have data and we want to show a loader,
Mm.
we won't just so originally the loader we have. Okay, so let's say I do set loading to true out here. Yeah. So every time it will go down and then will come up. It would be better if I had some kind of mask.
Mm.
That would just show me, okay, this would gray out this area and say, okay, we're loading.
Okay.
Correct. So let's create that. I'll add this class name. So I'll make it position relative, this entire screen right now. And inside that, I'll add one more div, class name equal to position absolute. Okay. W100. These are all, sorry, these are bootstrap classes. Y'all are, are you familiar with bootstrap?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank God. Flex, justify, content, center, align, items, center, and we'll have to give it a style. Right now, I'm not going to go into CSS. Background. And this should just have a loading text. Text white. Okay, this has come out here, which is disappointing. अरे ये सही जगह पे तो है.
यहाँ पे चाहिए शायद वो लोडिंग यहाँ पे दिखा है ना पी का वो जो क्लास है नीचे HTML में.
हाँ.
यहाँ पे.
Yeah.
लाइन नंबर 72 पे चाहिए शायद वो पूरा का पूरा क्लास.
No, that is basically so then we'll have to wrap it inside it. We can do that. Let's just pause the recording. Okay, so it turned out that I'd forgotten to add Bootstrap altogether. So what we've done here is we've just added the Bootstrap CSS to our React app inside index.tsx. So please, if you're following along, you can just remember to do this. And the CSS works now. So we have this loading showing up, and we want to show it only when we have the patch API is loading, right? So now if we want to do that, how will we do it? So we want to show this only when the patch API is loading. So how can we do it, Gauravi? Any idea?
We have already maintained the flag, no? Loading state. We can use that.
But so the typical one, so let's say we have two different loaders. Right now we just have one, but we have two different loaders, right? One is for this loading, okay, which is only when the get API loads, and this one we want to show only when the patch API is loading. Because if we turn this into false, then the to-do list will not show up at that time. And इसमें conditional rendering है. There are other ways to overcome this, but I'm trying to make a point. So what we can do is we can just make another variable, say const patch loading, set patch loading, right? Equal to use, sorry, patch loading क्या बोल रहा हूँ?
मैं भी confused हो रही हूँ.
Or page loading. बहुत खराब वीडियो है. Okay, I'm not going to cry about this anymore. So अगर ऑलरेडी साइज नहीं है, अगर टू डूज नहीं है ऑलरेडी मेरे पास, टू डूज set loading to true, else we'll set patch loading. Page loading. और फिर ये set loading false कर दिया, set page loading भी false करना पड़ेगा. So see this. And ये वाला हम पेज लोडिंग अगर होगा तो ही दिखाएंगे. ठीक है. So now let's refresh. We see loading, and next page we see page loading, and this works, right?
Yes.
So now, right now we have this page loading, right? Now in some time we will also need to have if we're handling the patch, we will have to have patch loading. We will have to show some loader maybe at this level again. So maybe we can use the same loader. But then again, if we add something, we will have to show loading then also. If we show completed, we have to show a loader. So all of these have their own loading states. है ना? और ये बहुत जल्दी, it can become very, very complicated, right? Each of them will have their loading states, their error states, their success states. So to manage all of this, we basically have a React query, okay, as a library.
Okay.
So right now, so every time if you see, we are manually setting the loading state to true, and then we are again setting it to false. So we can avoid all of this by using React query. I'll show you how exactly. So first we'll have to add React query to our app. So these are all the states that we steps that we covered right now. We saw the API docs. We created an Axios instance and helper methods. We defined the types for each API entity. We wrote services, and then we connected it to a front-end components, right? So what React query does is it helps us handle all of these actions. So saving the data to state, then handling the loading state, handling the error, handling any success, all of it will happen seamlessly without any repetitive code. So let's add it to the project. We'll go here, install React query. So where do we, how do we install it? Right. Get started. Installation. Simple. We just have to npm install React query. And then we have the quick start. So if we want to add it, what do we have to do? This is the main app component. Okay. Usme we have, similar to them, we have a to-do app. So we need to wrap this with this query client provider. And this query client is going to be this. This is the only boilerplate involved in React query. Okay. So we just have to copy this over, go to index, create this query client, which we will import from React query. And then we have this query client provider. I'll copy this also. And we can wrap it around the context provider that we had created last time. We can delete that context, but right now I'm going to do that. Okay. So this will basically allow us, this is what we need to do to allow us to use React query inside our application. let's come to the to do app and let's replace the get to do's API call with a query hook. Okay. So instead of having these to do's here, I'm going to have const to do's query equal to use query. So this is the hook that React query provides us. गौरवी confusion हो रहा है क्या बहुत ज्यादा?
नहीं, फिलहाल नहीं.
हाँ, फिलहाल नहीं ना? ठीक है, fine. So I'm just going to import it. Import. Okay. So now use query basically क्या करेगा? हमें कुछ चीजें by default देगा. वो हमें whatever data we receive in the response, it will give us. It will give us whether it is loading or not. It will give us an error if there is some error. It will give us is success if there has been a success. Okay.
Okay.
So now if I write use query, it takes in two arguments. First is the query key. Okay. This is basically just one unique identifier. So abhi is case mein, it will be just to do's. We can just use it as to do's. Okay. It's basically the name of this query. That's all. Okay.
Okay.
And second argument, it takes the function that we want to call. So which function will give us this the response that we need. So that's the get to do's function. Get to do's function. And right now we are just calling it empty. So we can make this optional. And right now, just let's for now just see what this data gets us. So we'll check data is loading, error, and is success. Yep, it's broken. Data, let's produce.